Hey, I'm Montgomery Sutton, and I am directing Murrow by Joseph Vitale.
And I'm Nicolas Greco, and I am playing Edward R. Murrow.
You are?
I am both Nicolas Greco and playing Edward R. Murrow in the play Murrow.
Murrow is a solo play starring this guy about Edward R. Murrow, who was one of, not the most important journalists, American journalists of the 20th century.
I think it's important to say that it's really a story of a man, a pioneer in kind of every facet of journalism and broadcasting. And what we do today is entirely because of what he did in the 40s and 50s.
It's a multimedia production that incorporates projections that transport you into the emotional experiences of the Depression, of World War II, of the McCarthy trials, and uses sound in a really unique and interesting way to give you the experience of Murrow's listeners and Murrow's audiences.
Research-wise, thank God for YouTube. I must have watched hundreds of hours of interviews, episodes of See It Now, if you've ever seen that on old CBS. These various reports that he did during the war, after the war. The first UFO sighting, I believe, was Edward R. Murrow's report.
The thing that attracts me the most to this play is that even though it's about someone who died over 60 years ago, it couldn't be more resonant and timely with the conversations we're having now about media, about news, about fake news, about which version of a story can you trust, what is the responsibility of the storyteller, what is the responsibility of the listener to the stories that they are being told. There's a great quote in the play. Did you share it with us?
In news, the danger is that what you're trying to say becomes beholden to the tyranny of the image.
That's not the quote I was thinking of, but that's a good one too.
That's the quote. Oh, what were you thinking?
It takes two to speak the truth, one to listen and one to hear.
Yeah, that's by Thoreau.
Yeah.
What resonates to me is the idea of how images control our way of thinking now. That we see something and we automatically believe what we see. Not what we hear, not what we know to be true, but what we see. And I think that a lot of times in news, when we talk of fake news and things that are relevant to today, we forget sometimes what we know to be true. And what we see can kind of distort the way that we think of things. And that to me has always been the crux of this play, and how we attack that. Hopefully the audience is changed by it.
And at its birth, radio and television journalism were fighting these same fights, we're having these same questions. And that the so-called golden age was not necessarily any different from what we're struggling with right now.
What you hear in this show is the truth.